Stupid phones really playing up. President Trump wants to end China's 15-year dominance in African resources and believes the best way to do this is by pumping billions into government agencies that can distribute the funds. One analyst says it's unusual for the Americans to be so top-down, as, unlike China, it is a democracy, but every US department knows about this policy, as does the US ambassador in London. They don't care if you're British or Canadian or Australian, as long as you don't go to the Chinese. The agencies are hand-picking people with a strong track record. It's not just a case that anyone will receive a tap on the shoulder and get funding. So far, the biggest winner from Trump's policy has been the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, OPIC. The agency made little impact under former President Barack Obama and has traditionally invested in social enterprises like overseas education and healthcare projects, but under Trump its remit has expanded dramatically. In October last year, Trump doubled its budget to over $60 billion and gave it a new name, the US International Development Finance Corporation, the IDFC. The key change is the new agency has the authority to make equity investments. Look at this. Let me just show you one quick thing about equity investments. I found this yesterday. I couldn't believe my eyes. Taxpayers. See what comes up there. Right, it's not what I'm going to type in. Taxpayers equity. Watch this. Oh. Taxpayers equity. Right. Understanding central government's accounts. Statement of changes in equity. Statement of changes in taxpayers' equity. And that's on gov.uk, because I'm on google.uk. So the thing is, there is such a thing as taxpayers' equity. Well, I only found it yesterday and I've been studying finance for 10 years. So the key change is the new agency has the authority to make equity investments, something that makes it a competitive deal maker. OPIC heard Ray Washburn say last year, equity authority gives us the ability to go in and participate with other countries. The United States is being left behind in a lot of countries because we didn't have the same financing products. Excuse me, other countries have. OPIC's Amanda Burke says, for the President, the agency is a major priority. This year, we have invested in a bauxite miner in Guinea, lending to them directly and providing them with debt. How do you provide someone with debt? Obviously, which is in the article, but obviously you can't put debt in a wheelbarrow. So how do you provide someone with debt? Obviously, we have a rigorous application process for those looking for finance. We are looking at projects with non-US connections. It is viewed by many as Americans a direct answer to China's Belt and Road Initiative announced in 2013, which has committed billions to projects across Africa and the Middle East. Israel. Watch this. So, China, Israel investments. What's that? Quantum China. That's what came up on the drop down. The Chinese market is a powerhouse that cannot be ignored. Quantum China Israel Investments has developed a unique entrepreneurial model of forming Israeli-Chinese joint ventures dedicated to solving specific unmet needs in the Chinese market. I've never even seen this before, but it doesn't surprise me a bit. Because let's take out the quantum. China's investing heavily in Israel. in an attempt to claw back. Chinese involvement in Israeli infrastructure may threaten security, the US study warns. They've got that backwards. Alibaba buys Israel AR startup amid China investment scrutiny. China is spying on Israel to steal US secrets. Well, Jonathan Pollard already gave China all US secrets. That's the Jew who's now living in Israel. Chinese investment in Israel could harm intelligence. Let's have a look at the news. Pressed by US, Israel mulls regulation of tech exits for China. China is spying on Israel. Netanyahu wants to bring Trump good news about Chinese investment. Pompeo warns Israel that Chinese investment into country could security risk. Israeli can laser center co-innovates raises 132 million. So China, Israel. China is spying on Israel as if China expected to be raised in Trump Netanyahu talks on Tuesday. China's heavy investment in Israeli infrastructure is expected to be one of the issues when US President Donald Trump... Now what's this article saying? It's saying that, it's Africa. China is just a big money black hole. The people of China don't get a sniff of it. It's all following the Israeli narrative. Washington, China's heavy investment in Israel infrastructure is expected to be one of the issues raised when US Donald Trump meets Monday in the White House with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So that must be for the APEC thing. So, US Secretary of State also, that's all just... Evidently. Netanyahu made clear that he will thank the US President for his historic recognition of Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, and also discuss with him how to further roll back Iran's efforts in the region and its drive to obtain nuclear weapons. Netanyahu said before leaving Israel at 2 a.m. that there has never been a closer relationship with a US President and an Israeli Prime Minister, and he asserted that this was a very, very important asset for Israel. This will be the 6th bilateral meeting between the two leaders. The Prime Minister, who was staying at the presidential guest residence at the Blair House right across from the White House, is accompanied by his wife Sarah and son Yair. Science Minister Ophir Akunis was also on the Prime Minister's plane, as he will be meeting with the White House as well as with Trump's science advisor. Probably Harvey Siegel will be there from DARPA as well. Netanyahu is scheduled to return to Israel on Thursday. So Birch also admits that the agency has ramped up its marketing on recent months, which is why London mining executives are seeing a stronger US presence than ever before in the industry. Last October, the agency presented at the Emerging Markets Private Equity Association conference in London. One man working directly with OPIC is London-based South African Brian Menell, who, via his private equity firm TechMet, is building controlling stakes in technology metal mining projects. He's in the process of securing 100 million for his fund from OPEC, and so influential has the firm become that Mike Mullen, the former chief of staff to the presidents George Bush and Obama, joined the board in December last year. His firm invests in London-listed Rainbow Rare Earths, meaning the AIM-listed company could be a beneficiary to OPEC funds in the future, he says. We work in cooperation with OPEC in Washington. We are in discussions with regards to substantial funding. Trump, when he was first elected, was lukewarm in his commitment to OPEC, because it historically lent money to projects that were environmentally friendly. He was lukewarm on renewable energy and helping poor people. He's not lukewarm on US strategic interest and countering China. Manel says that the US has turned to men like him because the superpower has little experience dealing with mid-tier miners in Africa, and it's not a world it understands. Manel's family founded and controlled the Angloval Group, one of the dominant players in African mining and industry over the past 80 years. He explains that the old fight for oil and gas took place in countries like Nigeria and Angola. And when he's talking about fighting, you're talking about war. But the new technology metals war is happening in Democratic Republic of Congo, Zimbabwe, South Sudan, Tanzania, and Sierra Leone. These countries are more politically unstable. Gee, I wonder why. And there have been reports of child labour being used. Manel also warns that US agencies must be careful which individuals they decide to back. Scandals have followed tycoons like Dan Gertler and Benny Steinmetz in recent years. So Dan Gertler's basically the golden child of the Congo, where all the Ebola is. And he's got the world's biggest gold mines, and he's just sold off all the Congo gas to Israel. He was already a billionaire, and now I think he's onto the oil in the Congo. So just one Jew can actually strip a whole nation of its assets, and Congo is named as being at war, and yet, the Jew is just in the middle of scandals, and should rightly be arrested and tried for war crimes. So Steinmetz in recent years, I don't know this Benny Steinmetz, but I did. An Israeli businessman, well, obviously a criminal then.